Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Saira Mujtaba, and with me is Renuka RS, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaks to his Israeli counterpart Naftali Bennett, reviews India-Israel cooperation in various areas. India's President Ramnath Kovind reaches Amsterdam on a 3-day tour of the Netherlands. In Pakistan, former Chief Justice Gulzar Ahmad nominated as caretaker Prime Minister. In Sri Lanka, 4 new ministers sworn in before President Gotabaya Rajapaksa following mass resignation of cabinet ministers. Vinay Mohan Quatra to be new Foreign Secretary of India. Indian boxer Monica stuns 2-time world champion Josie Capuco of Philippines to advance to women's 48 kg semi-finals in Thailand Open International Boxing Competition. And now the news in detail. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday spoke to his Israeli counterpart Naftali Bennett and discussed recent global events. He also reviewed the India-Israel cooperation in various areas. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said he is looking forward to welcoming him in India very soon. Mr. Modi conveyed his best wishes to Naftali Bennett for an early recovery after he was diagnosed with COVID-19. He also expressed his condolences for the loss of lives in the recent terrorist attacks in Israel. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has congratulated Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán on his victory in the parliamentary elections. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said he is looking forward to continue working with Mr. Orbán to further strengthen the close and friendly India-Hungary ties. Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orbán scored a 4th consecutive win in Sunday's general election.
India's President Ramnath Kovind reached Amsterdam on Monday on a 3-day tour of the Netherlands. After a ceremonial welcome at the Schiphol airport in Amsterdam, the President proceeded to the Royal Palace. President Kovind later visited the Keukenhof Tulip Garden where a newly bred tulip was named by the First Lady of India, Savita Kovind. This was to honour the 75 years of diplomatic relations between India and the Dutch state. In Pakistan, Prime Minister Imran Khan on Monday nominated former Chief Justice Gulzar Ahmad for the office of caretaker Prime Minister. A report.
Pakistan PM Imran Khan made the decision after approval from the party's core committee. Senior leader of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party, Fawad Chaudhry, said, the announcement comes after President Arif Alvi sent letters to Mr. Khan and leader of the opposition Shehbaz Sharif on Monday, seeking suggestions for the appointment of a caretaker Prime Minister. In his letter, President Alvi told them, in case they do not agree on the appointment within 3 days of the dissolution of the Parliament, they shall forward 2 nominees each to a committee to be constituted by the Speaker. In a statement, the President's Secretariat, the Constitution has empowered the President to appoint a caretaker Prime Minister in consultation with the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition in the outgoing National Assembly. Mr. Khan is supposed to continue as Prime Minister until a caretaker Premier is appointed, according to the notification issued by President Alvi. Meanwhile, Pakistan's Supreme Court on Monday adjourned the hearing of the suo motu case pertaining to the National Assembly Deputy Speaker's decision to dismiss the no confidence motion against Prime Minister Imran Khan on account of being allegedly sponsored by a foreign power. The matter will now be heard on Tuesday. Anita Anand for World News All India Radio.
In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a discussion on developments in Pakistan. In conversation are Beena Sikri, former diplomat, and Manish Anand, journalist.
Imran Khan, the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, has appointed the 27th Chief Justice of Pakistan Supreme Court, Gulzar Ahmad, as the caretaker Prime Minister. And today itself, the Supreme Court of Pakistan, while its 5-judge bench, is scheduled to pronounce its judgment on the legality of the rejection of the no confidence motion. Ambassador Sikri, I am Manish Anand, and we are discussing the prevailing fluid Pakistan situation. Pakistan seems to be back to the old theatrical style of democracy where army pulls the strings whenever the political leadership goes beyond its control.
Well, as you have said, the situation in Pakistan at the moment is very complex. the matter has gone before the Supreme Court, and we have seen that the question before the Supreme Court, there is a challenge on the legality of the decision by the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly on rejecting the vote of the motion of no confidence, former Prime Minister Imran Khan, on the basis that there's a foreign conspiracy angle. So having rejected it on that ground, the former Prime Minister Imran Khan, gave advice to the President that dissolve the National Assembly and call for early elections, which the President accepted. Now, that is also being constitutionally challenged, that if the Deputy Speaker's ruling was not constitutional, then even Prime Minister Imran Khan's advice to the President was not constitutional. So it has become a very complex constitutional task. But in fact, what happened is that under the Pakistan Constitution, the former Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition are entitled to suggest names of people who can be chosen as the caretaker Prime Minister for the 90-day period. The name that former Prime Minister Imran Khan has suggested is former Chief Justice Gulzar Ahmad, who was till February 2022 the Chief Justice of Pakistan. Now, the opposition parties, the Shehbaz Sharif party, they are saying that we will not suggest any names, because they're saying that we don't accept that this process is constitutional at all, so we're not going to suggest any names. So that is another problem that has arisen. If they do not suggest names within 8-day period, then only the names suggested by Imran Khan will be considered and the choice will be made. So there are so many wheels within wheels on the situation. I think that at the moment, we have to wait till the Supreme Court of Pakistan gives its judgment and its verdict. Today they have adjourned till tomorrow, and tomorrow 12 o'clock they resume, and we'll see what verdict comes out there. Perhaps there will be a verdict tomorrow and there will be a quick decision. Otherwise, you will have a situation where the opposition is not participating in the process. They will not give a name. Gulzar Ahmad will become the caretaker, and so 90 days later the elections will be held.
Indeed, Ambassador Sikri, in fact, Imran Khan made a lot of dramatic television appearances, and the manner in which he disclosed the foreign conspiracy angle. In fact, he has named the American diplomat Donald Lu, having threatened him, and the message was delivered through Pakistani envoy. Is it his last bit sort of maneuvering to stay back in power, or to manage somehow the army to back him for a while?
Yeah, well, I think that it's, this foreign conspiracy angle is you can draw anything out of a hat and say it's so-and-so person or so-and-so person or so-and-so country. So I don't think he waved the paper around, but nobody has seen that paper to see what is written on it and what is the basis for this conspiracy theory. But clearly it was a googly that he bowled, and including the googly of, asking for this whole thing has been very unexpected. The opposition parties clearly did not expect that the Deputy Speaker would reject the question of voting on the no confidence motion. After that, there would be advice to dissolve the assembly and to call for early elections. So this has thrown a lot of uncertainty into the question. The army is now saying that we have nothing to do with it. We are not part of the political process. It now seems to me that it will have to be judiciary decides. Obviously, if the judiciary, this question of so-called foreign conspiracy is also going to be there before the judiciary, because there are lawyers from all sides who will be speaking. So without getting into any speculation about, who and what and why and whether it's true or not, let's just wait till the judiciary comes up with a decision.
Correct. Ambassador Sikri, the spotlight is also on Imran Khan's relations with the army chief Qamar Javed Bajwa. In fact, there had been speculation that Imran Khan was delaying an extension to Bajwa of late, and he wanted somebody else as the army chief. At the same time, Army Chief wanted Imran Khan to deliver on 3 counts, basically, that Pakistan should be off the Financial Action Task Force grey list, as well as Taliban regime in Afghanistan should be internationally accepted. Besides, Imran Khan is striking a balance between America and China. Do you think that Imran Khan failed to deliver on Army's expectations, despite the fact that Imran Khan was the most pliable Prime Minister in Pakistan, foisted by the Army there?
Well, yes, I think in the beginning it was definitely being speculated that Imran Khan has been made Prime Minister because he is going to be pliable and, he's going to do the army's bidding. Certainly that was the expectation. But somewhere down the line on the question of promotion of a new army chief or extension for the present army chief, all those issues came up, and it was clear from the kind of rapid movements and so on and statements made in Pakistan that former Prime Minister Imran Khan had not been able to accept or did did not want to accept what the army was asking him to do and wanted his own person there. And from that time onwards, all the issues, the relationship between the army and former Prime Minister Imran Khan kept on going downhill. But, there are 2 points on this. First of all, this is very well-known reputation in Pakistan that, no Prime Minister had been able to complete his full term after elections. And every time some issue comes up along the way, and you find the army once again trying to reassert its superiority and letting it be known to everybody inside and outside Pakistan that we call the shots, what we say happens, and things happen according to that. So let's see this time whether what the Supreme Court says, will it please the army or not. Regarding those 3 points, those are very complex points, and I don't think that given the stand on the FATF, those are objective reasons why Pakistan is on the grey list. Very objective reasons. They've been given a list of 27 points that they were required to meet. They did not meet any of those requirements that the FATF required of them to do, and so they remain on the list. And if they don't, then you can even move to the blacklist instead of the grey list. So those are very objective concerns, and the reason the requirements had been clearly spelled out to the government of Iran. Now, balancing between America and China, I have this situation where President Biden is talking about the Quad and the Indo-Pacific and giving a lot of huge budget of maybe 1.8 trillion to the Quad and the Indo-Pacific to, strengthen the position in the South China Sea and to make sure that one country, and everyone, of course, it is China, the country that is there, will not be able to have its way. So that is a situation where I think that, expectation that Prime Minister of Pakistan would be able to influence that is very difficult. And as regards the situation in Afghanistan, that is what the Taliban is making for itself. They had said that, yes, we will accept the international bidding, we will allow girls to go to school. They even give a date of 20th March for girls to go to school, and then they change their mind on the 20th of March itself. So that is causing a lot of dissatisfaction within Afghanistan by the people of Afghanistan. And that is something that, I think it is more for the Prime Minister of Pakistan and every aspect of Pakistan to use influence on Taliban to accept the requirements that the international community has laid down, that it should be an inclusive government, that it should allow for all parts of society, women and children, to have secure and stable lives with access to education, bring the economic situation, very dire economic straits, under control. These are situations which could have, if Pakistan puts pressure on them, you may have a movement, but clearly Pakistan is not willing to put pressure on them, and so that's it.
Mr. Sikri, India is always a constant in Pakistani discourse. And on this occasion, we have seen Imran Khan praising India's independent foreign policy. In fact, India going ahead to procure fuel and oil from Russia has been quite praised by Imran Khan. At the same time, the Army Chief Bajwa also said that it's time that Pakistan should initiate talks with India and resolve all outstanding issues peacefully through dialogue. And he did also mention that in the Pakistan's neighborhood, basically the Middle East, a lot of wars are going on, fire is going on, and Pakistan cannot afford fire near its vicinity. Its border should be peaceful. How do you see India being brought into the current political fluid situation of Pakistan?
On the one hand, Pakistan keeps saying that, India is never a factor in the Pakistan elections, and, that we don't talk about India in an adversarial way. That's one thing. On the other hand, they are saying now that, we've done a foreign policy review. We're talking about geoeconomics and not geopolitics. So if you talk about geoeconomics, then you want to have good relations with your neighbor and trade. But then they have never given MFN status to India. So then the army chief comes and says that he wants good relations and peaceful resolution and dialogue. And then there's terrorism across the border. Even today, there have been violent incidents in Srinagar and people have lost their lives. So how do you reconcile action with words? I think this has always been the problem when we have wanted to take forward the relationship with Pakistan. This has always been the issue. You cannot reconcile their words, which are something totally different and totally almost mundane, because they say the same thing over and over again, that we want good relations with India. But the actions only show terrorism and resort to terrorism and disruption of the life of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. Even when we are seeing that how in Jammu and Kashmir the life of the people has improved, individuals are now, accepting that yes, their life is much better, but still the effort to bring in terrorism is still there. So government of India has made it very clear that we cannot see the possibility of any diplomacy and dialogue with Pakistan unless their support for cross-border terrorism stops. And unless we see the visible impact, of the stopping of this support for cross-border terrorism. Now, that has not yet happened. So in that case, how can you do it? This is what it is. You can, like the Pakistani army tells former Prime Minister Imran Khan, reconcile America and China. And then Imran Khan goes to China and says, the friendship is higher than the mountains and deeper than the seas. And then you expect America to accept that. It doesn't gel. So you have to have a consistent course of action where what you say gels and coincides with what you do. You can't have two different things. You can't expect that and the world has seen it again and again, so they don't believe you anymore.
Ambassador Sikri, you shared your views with us. Thank you so much for talking to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
Welcome back. In Sri Lanka, 4 new ministers were sworn in before President Gotabaya Rajapaksa at the Presidential Secretariat on Monday, hours after the cabinet resigned en masse amidst a severe economic and political crisis in the island nation. According to the President's office, former Justice Minister Ali Sabri was sworn in as the new Finance Minister, while G.L. Paris was sworn in as the Foreign Minister, Dinesh Gunawardene as the Education Minister, and Johnston Fernando as the Highways Minister. Government officials said more ministers will be sworn into the cabinet in the coming days if the opposition parties agree to form a united government. For days, public protests have erupted in Sri Lanka, demanding that the government take action to address the economic crisis, hours-long power cuts, and shortages of fuel and other essential supplies. India's Chief of Army Staff, General M.M. Narawane, visited the Battle Box Bunker at Fort Canning in Singapore, which was used as an emergency bomb-proof command center during the Second World War. General Narawane also laid a wreath at the Kranji War Memorial on Monday. He's on a 3-day visit to Singapore. The visit aims to further enhance existing defence relations between India and Singapore. General Narawane is scheduled to call on Minister of Defence, Chief of Singapore Army and other senior dignitaries, where he will discuss avenues for enhancing India-Singapore defence relations.
The Government of India on Monday appointed Vinay Mohan Quatra as the new Foreign Secretary. The Appointments Committee of the Cabinet has approved his appointment. Mr. Quatra is currently serving as India's envoy to Nepal. He will succeed Harshvardhan Shringla, who is scheduled to retire this month end. The United States Ambassador to Bangladesh, Peter Haas, has said that Bangladesh has found no better partner than the US, and the US intends to build upon that partnership over the next 50 years. Commending Bangladesh for its remarkable 5 decades of independence, Ambassador Haas said that since recognizing Bangladesh in 1972, the US has provided more than $8 billion to it in the form of development assistance. Calling Bangladesh's transformation over the past 50 years as stunning, Ambassador Haas said that today Bangladesh is widely admired as a success story. He said Bangladesh is one of the world's most vulnerable nations to the effects of climate change, but it has emerged as a powerful voice in urging major emitting countries to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. It is also a powerful voice in calling for financing for climate adaptation.
In Afghanistan, the Taliban announced a ban on the cultivation of narcotics in the country on Sunday. According to the order, the production, use or transportation of narcotics are banned. Afghanistan is the world's biggest opium producer. The ban comes during opium harvesting season in southern Afghanistan, and a Taliban spokesman said that farmers could be jailed and their crops burned if they harvested poppy. Drug control has been one major demand of the international community of the Islamist group, which took over the country in August and is seeking formal international recognition in order to wind back sanctions that are severely hampering banking, business and development. In USA, at least 6 people have been killed and 12 injured in a shooting in the center of Sacramento in California. According to police, people fled through the streets after rapid gunfire rang out in an area packed with restaurants and bars on Sunday. Sacramento Police Chief Catherine Lester said that 3 of the deceased are men and 3 are women. According to media reports, investigators urge the public to come forward with any information that might help identify those responsible. The shooting came several hours after 1 person was killed and 10 people were injured when gunfire erupted at an outdoor concert in Dallas, Texas.
Russia has said that it maintained gas flows through key pipeline routes into Europe despite European leaders' call for more sanctions against Moscow and uncertainty over payment terms. Russian state-owned energy giant Gazprom in a statement said that it was continuing the supply of natural gas to Europe via Ukraine in line with requests from European consumers. Meanwhile, Germany's defense minister said on Sunday that the European Union must discuss banning the import of Russian gas. Lithuania has already announced it will no longer import Russian gas to meet its domestic needs. Italy and Germany are among the European Union members most dependent on Russian supply. In Russia, the Kremlin has categorically denied any accusations related to death of civilians in the Ukrainian town of Bucha. Speaking to reporters on a conference call, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said the facts and chronology of the events in Bucha did not support Ukraine's version of events and urged international leaders not to rush to judgment. Meanwhile, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said he was deeply shocked by images of dead civilians in the Ukraine. Earlier, dozens of bodies found in towns of the Ukrainian town of Bucha.
In boxing, Indian boxer Monica stunned two-time world champion Jose Gabuco of the Philippines to advance to the women's 48 kg semi-finals in the Thailand Open International Boxing Competition in Phuket on Monday. Monica defeated Gabuco, an experienced campaigner who won gold and bronze medals at the World Championships in 2012 and 2008. She will now compete in the semi-final against Transi TMQ of Vietnam, who had a bye in the previous round. The other two Indian pugilists, Ashish Kumar and Manisha, also advanced to the semi-finals with contrasting victories over their Thai opponents. Ashish dominated Afisid Kangkokrie during his comfortable win by unanimous decision in men's 81 kg quarterfinal, while Manisha registered a hard-fought 3-2 win over the two-time youth Asian champion Ponte Buapa. Meanwhile, Renu 54 kg and Monica 63 kg ended their campaigns following defeats in the quarterfinals. In IPL cricket, Lucknow Super Giants set a victory target of 170 runs before Sunrisers Hyderabad at D.Y. Patil Stadium in Mumbai Monday evening. Chasing the target, Hyderabad were 125 for 4 in 15.5 overs when reports last came in. Put into bat first, Lucknow posted 169 for 7 in stipulated 20 overs, riding on KL Rahul's 68 and Deepak Hooda's 51. For Hyderabad, Washington Sundar, Romario Shepherd and T. Natarajan took 2 wickets each. Earlier, Sunrisers Hyderabad captain Kane Williamson won the toss and opted to field first.
In hockey, ace drag flicker Harmanpreet Singh scored a hat-trick and in the process completed a century of international goals as India beat England 4-3 in the second match of the double-leg FIH Pro League tie in Bhubaneswar on Sunday. India, who had won the first clash in the double-header 3-2 in sudden death shootout on Saturday, thus consolidated their position atop the league table, moving to 21 points from 10 matches. Germany, India's next opponents a couple of weeks later, are second with 17 points from 8 matches. England were placed 7th with 7 points from 6 matches. The hosts will next take on Germany on 14th of April and 15th of April. And now a report from the business world.
The Sensex climbed 1,335 points or 2.25% to finish at 60,612. The Nifty also surged 383 points or 2.17% to settle at 18,053. In global share markets, stock indices in Asia-Pacific logged gains except Singapore's Straits Times, which posted marginal loss of around 0.6%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index surged 2.1% and China's Shanghai Composite Index climbed 0.9%. South Korea's Kospi gained 0.7% and Japan's Nikkei 225 added 0.3%. European share markets were trading mixed and almost flat in intraday trade. Brent crude oil rose above $105 a barrel as concerns about tight supply arising from Russia's military operation in Ukraine. The lack of an Iranian nuclear deal also pushed the crude prices up despite countries releasing oil from their strategic reserves. The crude prices climbed more than 1% in intraday trade. Brent crude was trading around $105.75 per barrel. The rupee strengthened 24 paise against the US dollar. The domestic currency closed at 75 rupees and 55 paise per dollar. This is Lalema Aneja Dang for World News, All India Radio.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. Let us take a look at the press reports on China. South China Morning Post reports Shanghai port operations hit by city's COVID-19 outbreak. South China Morning Post reported that Pakistan's political instability has sparked concerns from close ally China, which has poured more than $25 billion of investments in the China-Pakistan economic corridor in the past few years. ANI reports that China has demanded an outstanding due of $55.6 million from Pakistan related to the Lahore Orange Line project and has asked Islamabad to clear it by November 2023.
Now let's take a look at what made the headlines in Nepal. Kathmandu Post, in an opinion piece by former Nepal Commerce Secretary, writes that Nepal's trade deficit with China has been growing at an unprecedented rate over the past decade. According to Khabar Hub, the private sector industrialists and businessmen of Nepal and India have claimed that Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deoba's 3-day visit to India has been highly productive and successful.
Now let's have a look what made headlines in Bangladesh. The constable who harassed a female college teacher for wearing bindi in Dhaka has been temporarily suspended, reports Daily Star. The Bangladesh-US security dialogue due on Wednesday will discuss issues such as withdrawal of US sanctions on RAB, the General Security of Military Information Agreement, and Bangladesh's participation in Indo-Pacific Strategy, reports Pratham Olo.
Let's have some brief news from Afghanistan. Khamma Press reports that Acting Foreign Minister of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, Amir Khan Muttaqi, said that China has agreed to accept the credentials of Afghan diplomats sent to Afghanistan's embassy in China by Taliban. The Week magazine headline reads that President of India, Ramnath Kovind, has said that India and Turkmenistan strongly support a peaceful, secure and stable Afghanistan.
India's sports minister will spend 190 crore rupees on training of athletes and equipment for upcoming Commonwealth and Asian Games 2022. The ministry has finalized the annual calendar of training and competitions for 33 sports disciplines and earmarked a sum of 259 crore rupees for the financial year 2022-23 as assistance to various national sports federations. The budget has been decided based on detailed discussions with 33 national sports federations on their planned competition and training calendar for 2022-23.
And before we close, a quick look at the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaks to his Israeli counterpart Naftali Bennett, reviews India-Israel cooperation in various areas. India's President Ramnath Kovind reaches Amsterdam on a 3-day tour of the Netherlands. In Pakistan, former Chief Justice Gulzar Ahmed nominated as caretaker Prime Minister. In Sri Lanka, 4 new ministers sworn in before President Gotabaya Rajapaksa following mass resignation of cabinet ministers. Vinay Mohan Kawatra to be new Foreign Secretary of India. In sports, Indian boxer Monica stuns 2-time world champion Josie Gapulko of Philippines to advance to women's 48 kg semi-finals in Thailand Open International Boxing Competition. And in IPL cricket, Lucknow Super Giants set a victory target of 170 runs before Sunrisers Hyderabad at the D.Y. Patil Stadium in Mumbai. And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Senegal on their Independence Day. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.